Is my hypermobility the reason why my rotator cuffs were shot by age 30? Now, I get all sorts of variations of things like this related to joint dysfunction. And what I like to tell people is hypermobility sets up an environment where you can use your joints poorly. They move too much, your control isn't as good, depending on where you are in that hypermobility spectrum. Things stretch farther than they're supposed to, so it puts a lot more strain on things like a rotator cuff, on all the ligaments in your joints. So if you are using your shoulder poorly and your posture tends to be more hunched forward, and when you go to grab stuff, you're dropping that shoulder out of the socket. Subluxing, one of the things I teach all the time is you got to hold your shoulder onto your body, your arm basically onto your body when you pick things up. You cannot sublux your joint to grab something because then you're constantly pulling on that joint. And if you have those tendencies, if you sublux your shoulder every time you go to grab something because you can and you have, then that does start wearing that rotator cuff out. It just gets beat up over and over and over again until finally it starts to give. Now, anytime we're dealing with connective tissue disorders and hypermobility issues, you have the hypermobility piece where it's overuse. If you are on the more severe end of the spectrum where your tissues tend to tear more easily, it may not take as much abnormal use to start seeing those break down. So, there is a spectrum with that, but it's very much related to how you're using it. And the reason why that is so important for everybody to understand is if it's related to how you're using it, that means you can learn to use it better and you can support that. It's not inevitable. And so being able to learn how to control your shoulders, especially if you've had that history, is hugely helpful. It also means that you're going to have really good strength to be able to support those joints. So it is definitely related, but not causal. Another example I'll give you is my own story with my hips. So with my hypermobility issues, I also happen to have hip dysplasia, both sides, undiagnosed as a child. So I went through and I played sports. I did basketball, volleyball, I ran track, and I had never had any hip issues. I had a lot of other issues, ankles, backs, necks, never had any hip issues. And then as I hit my 20s and was having kids, I started developing hip pain. And my hips, because of the dysplasia, all the stuff I had done, and I hadn't always done it well. I didn't know that I had that. I didn't even realize I had hypermobility issues until I was, into my 20s. So I obviously paid zero attention to that. And so all the splits and stuff I used to do and a lot of the contact sports I did probably did not help me. And so it wore my joint out significantly faster. Now, had I known that from a younger age, or had I understood and learned as a child how to take care of that, I probably could have done a lot better with my joints than what I did. And so for all of you parents out there who have children growing up with this, that is one of the things I want you to definitely take away and understand too, is that with these things, if we can teach our children how to live with these bodies better, then we change their futures. And that is, I think, the power of education and understanding, because outcomes become so much different when you know from the beginning that I have to stabilize this better, I have to do this correctly, rather than kind of just doing it however we tend to do it and not realizing it until your rotator cuff is torn that is a problem.